Welcome to the Actors Well podcast, and welcome David. Today is very exciting because, as you will see, this is the first time that we have an in-person interview in the Actors Well podcast. I know, very exciting. And you're probably wondering, who is this guy sitting next to me? But David and
I'm also wondering, who's this guy sitting next to you?
Well, David and I met in acting class a little bit more than a year ago.
Yeah.
At the Ivana Chabuk studio. I've talked about it here in the podcast. And I started slightly before you did. And the first day of class, you sat next to me. And since that day, we've been best friends. We've done a lot of things together. And that's the reason why you're here. Apart from starting being self-tape buddies, which, you know, was one of the main things. And I think that's super important when you're an actor, right? Like to have someone who you can trust, who lives not too far from you, and you can do self-tapes, because you're doing self-tapes like 8 times a week. And
yeah, 100%. Like having someone that you can call and just be like, hey, I got a self-tape. Can you come over and read this, and not have to, you know, scour the internet for somebody, a friend, to like read it, or your mom who doesn't really know how to act, like all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
Actually, I don't know. My mom maybe is a good actor. I've never seen her act, but
like we study the same technique. So that helps a lot, like giving notes and all that. From there, we realized we liked working together. We did a couple scenes in class. We did Knocked Up, and we did Addicted to Love. And we quickly realized that, you know, self-taping and auditioning, and I know you just recently had a breakthrough through all that, so I would love to hear about that.
We're talking about that on this.
But,
yeah.
You know, we realized that as actors, you can't just, you know, self-tape and submit all these auditions every week and just wait in your house. And we wanted to do more than just that. So do you want to tell us how you feel about that? Because I know you feel very strongly.
I feel passionate about how shitty the auditioning world is for an actor. I don't know what everyone else's experience is, but mine is, it's just so, it's like a obstacle course of stupidity that you have to, like, so many like hoops you have to jump through at the off chance that you might give me this job. Like, here's 10 things to do. Like, can you do all 10 things? And then we're going to decide whether we want to hire you for the job. And I just, you know, it's part of the gig. I get that.
There's no other job that has that.
No.
Like, what other job makes you put in so many hours and put in your talent that you've worked so hard for so many years to achieve, right?
Nothing. Like, imagine
and they don't pay you.
Imagine you were a lawyer and you showed up and they're like, okay, we're going to get you to do like the first day of this case. We're going to get you to do your opening arguments, and we're going to make you research the case and like give your thoughts. And then if we like how you perform in court, we're going to maybe give you the job. You'd be like, no freaking way. I'm not going to do that job.
There's like 1,000 people also doing that.
There's also 100 lawyers who also look the same as you, who are waiting to also do this case. Anyway, so anyway, on that note, I don't know. I auditioning's fun, and I like it. It's part of it. But I think as an actor, it has to be a piece of the puzzle. It can't be the entire thing. I know some actors who kind of just honestly sit at home and wait for an audition, and honestly just wait for their manager to send them, or agent to send them an audition, and then they do that audition, and then they sit and wait to hear, which is great. I think that should be 10% of what you're doing.
But it's also such a passive approach to it.
Agreed, yeah.
Right? Like, you're just waiting there, and it's what we're talking. Like, you're completely out of control. You're just putting your future and your whole career in the hands of someone else, when it's like there's so many things, like you said, like 90% of things that you could be doing that would advance your career way more, and then puts you in control. And then, you know, if you fail, at least it's your fault, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's always your fault if you fail, which is great about being an actor. I do think you have to take your life into your own hands. I have this kind of phrase that I like to live by, which is, are you living your life by design or by default? And I think that the by default version is you just kind of just let the universe dictate things to you. And I believe in manifesting and all that. We can get into that later if you want to talk about that. But by default is just kind of like going with whatever comes in front of you. You're just along for the ride. But maybe you're not even on the right train. Maybe you're not even, you know, what's your destination? Life by design is, okay, this is the destination point I want to get to. There's multiple paths to get there. I'm going to go on this path right now. And maybe if that's not working, I'm going to go on that path. maybe a multiple paths simultaneously. This metaphor is getting all messed up. I don't know what the
paths.
metaphor is. There's a lot of paths and trades. I don't know what maybe we're on a horse for a bit. I don't know. The point is that I think you need to take control. And I think one of the things, which I think is the point of why we're talking today, is make your own shit.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
so
make your own shit.
Here,
that's why we're here, because that's why I believe in. I love making
because
shit.
We have not talked about it in the podcast, and that's the section in which I disappeared. So maybe now we can apologize and explain why I have disappeared for all these months. And it's because David and I made a movie, basically.
Pause for applause.
I know it's kind of crazy to say, and I didn't think the process would take as long. And it's one of those things, making a movie, it's one of those things that you think it's just going to take, a certain amount of time, and you just have to triple that.
And really.
Because it really all started because we had an idea in I think it was October, right, that we wrote it. And it was for a movie called Stuck. And it was something completely different.
That was early. That was earlier in the year.
But the whole movie, the problem we encountered with it is that it happened in an elevator.
Yeah.
And I can't even begin to tell you how hard it is to find a fucking elevator to shoot in that doesn't cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And we looked for months. We tried so many options and nothing worked. And so one day we sat down and we were like, okay, well, we want to shoot something. The whole point of this is to put something out there. And so we met up over matchas. And this is what we did. We kind of wrote down all the characters that we like to play as actors, right? So we would put those things that other people maybe don't cast us in, but we would create those roles for ourselves. And when we wrote it down, we realized that we were very different. You and I have very different styles. You're more of like a comedy actor, and I'm like more like dark, psychological, like horror.
Sociopath.
Sociopath. You're more like happy and comedy. And we're like, well, that could be something fun, interesting. So the process, we made a list, right, of like characters we wanted to play. And then types of movies we like to be in.
Yeah.
And then I think we wrote down stories.
Well, we started brainstorming. My memory is we started brainstorming just like what are things that have happened to us that we can draw inspiration from to make this movie. Because just to back up a little bit, so we had written this script for Stuck, and we were all gung-ho to make the movie. And we had found a DP, we'd found a sound person, and we had scheduled the dates we were going to shoot. And we were just really, the missing piece was looking for this elevator. And then when we couldn't find it, we were like, well, we've got these dates scheduled. We've already have these people lined up. We'd already interviewed like DPs and sound people, and we'd already basically hired them. Yeah. We're like, what? We're not gonna let this go to waste just because we don't have an elevator. Yeah. So then we're like, okay, can we scramble and write a new movie? And I think it was like,
we wrote this.
I think it was like 3 to 4 weeks before the scheduled shoot time.
Wild.
Was like when we sat down to be like, let's think about another movie alternative. Yeah. And so we brainstormed characters idea, and then we talked about like stories from our past that could inspire us. And then
Denise, a story came up from my Twitch. So I do have a platform in Spanish for those of you who don't know. And one of the things I do in my Spanish platform is Twitch, live streaming. And something that happened one day is I had ordered food. A lot of times, like with my followers, I would order food and eat in the stream. And I ordered my favorite thing, which is from Cava. I don't know if you guys know it, but it's a chain. It's kind of like Chipotle, but Mediterranean. It's very popular here in LA. And they have this thing that's a braised lamb, and it's delicious. And anyway, it had been a day that I hadn't been able to have lunch. I was so busy, and it was like 9 p.m. at night, and I ordered the food on Uber Eats. And I just waited, and then the driver went to pick it up, and then, all my followers are expecting. There's like thousands of people, like waiting for the food to come, and you're like there, okay, it's coming. And then suddenly the driver just like stops, and we're like, what's happening? And so we're looking at the driver, and it stops, and it doesn't move, and it's like 15 minutes, and it still hasn't moved. And so I message him, and I'm like, okay, are you okay? What's happening with the food? He's like, yeah, my car broke down, but I'm on my way. And I'm like, okay. Like 20 minutes pass, 30 minutes pass, it's 10 p.m. The restaurant now has closed. So, all the restaurants have closed. This is LA. Everything closes so fucking early. So by 10 p.m., if you haven't eaten, you're done for, unless you want to eat fast food. And then, suddenly I get a message, your order has been canceled. Like, an hour and a half after I had ordered my food, and the food just never arrived. And this driver just became a joke in my stream. Everybody started hating on him, but it became so intense. Like, it was like 3-4 months later, and everybody still remembered this guy and his name, and it's the hate they had for him.
Dimitri, right?
Dimitri.
Yeah.
And everybody just hated Dimitri.
Dimitri, if you're watching, where's our fucking food?
But also, thank you for inspiring our movie.
Yes, because you did inspire the movie, which is funny because we took that story and we're like, oh, okay, I think we could do something with that. Because I have experience. I dated someone for a while who was also a Twitch streamer, and I watched her stream a lot, and I was like on her stream a bunch, and I have a lot to say about the sort of online streaming world, and it seemed like a good fit for the two of us. Like we found a topic that we both knew about. We had things to say, passionate about. Seemed like could be fun and funny, but also we found some like dark and twisted things to use your sort of the things that you like to make movies about.
So that's how the movie came about. And at first it was called Brainstorming because of this whole story. And then it took a turn. We're going to get to that. But I guess the first question that I know a lot of people ask all the time is, how do you find people to make a movie with? Like a lot of people are like, well, I have these ideas, but like, how do I find a DP? How do I find a sound person? Like, how many people do I need on set, and all those things. So I guess I want to talk about our process on literally the steps we took to find those people, and like how small our crew was.
Very small.
And I think that's the amazing part about it, how like a lot of times people think they need this like crazy crew and a crazy budget to make things happen, but it really isn't that much. So you ended up writing the script in literally like a week,
right?
And then we did pre-production in like another week.
Well, the other thing we did was to compensate for the fact that we couldn't find this elevator and we were stuck at locations, we decided, okay, let's sit down and make a list of what we have, like the locations we have to shoot in, and let's just write a script based on that, which I think going forward is my first piece of advice for anyone wanting to make their own stuff, is just write down a list of everything you have, like even that, like my dad's garage or my car or that place where I like to go creep on people at night. I don't know, whatever places you have that are available to you, write that down and then see if you can find a story that fits with that. Yeah. And so that's what we did. And so we ended up using Denise's apartment.
Yeah. We literally made a list of everything, because location can be such a bitch, right? Like you have an idea, you have a script written, and then location can be the last thing that, because sometimes you need permits and sometimes you can't find that specific thing, or if you have too many locations, like the budget's gonna become bigger if you have to start moving and you're gonna waste so much time. So we ended up doing something that was one location, and one location that we were in control over.
Exactly. Well, I will add though, I'm from Toronto, and I've made pilots before, I've made short films before, and this was my first time making one in LA, and I did find there was a difference, because before, like we shot this pilot where we needed a university thing, so we just went to the University of Toronto and on a Saturday and just walked in. The doors are open. We just found an empty classroom. We just started shooting.
No way.
And we're like, maybe someone will kick us out eventually. We'll just keep shooting until someone kicks us out. No one kicked us out we shot the entire scene. We could have stayed longer and shot more scenes. And then we left. And then we did that like with a bunch of different locations, like at the park, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, in LA,
in
that
LA,
would never
like
happen. That would
I'm
never
finding
happen.
that like it just people are more film, I want to say savvy, but the word is annoyed.
Yeah.
And so people are so aware of people filming. And so if you're watching this and you're in, whatever, buttfuckville, nowhere, and you're like, I want to make a movie,
you might be able to.
I say go for the guerrilla approach, which is like, just go. It never hurts to ask. And also my favorite thing to live by is it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission. So just go film, and then someone shuts you down, they shut you down like, oops, sorry, I'm a student filmmaker. And this is really guerrilla filmmaking 101. That's what we're talking about here. Like this isn't how to make a professionally polished $100,000 movie, $1 million movie, $10 million movie. This is like how to make the $5,000 movie, the $1 movie. So anyway,
let's talk about how we got our crew, because we had gotten our crew ahead of time. I mean, I think a big part of like being an actor, and a creative, especially we're lucky for that in LA, is that there's so many people around you, and like, joining a class, like networking, like meeting people, and like starting becoming friends with people who do all kinds of things, you know, and friends that are think alike like you, right? That also want to do film, and you know, some are going to be editors, some are going to be DPs. The DP that we worked with is somebody I had worked with in another project when I had moved to LA. So a big part of is that, and hopefully you can find people like that around you. But it depends on where you are. If you're not in LA, you might not have the ability to find people like that around you. So there's like.
But there's always someone who can. There's always a friend who can hold a camera for you.
Yeah.
Hold an iPhone.
Sure.
Hold a boom mic.
Yeah.
There's always a friend. You just got to do some research, figure out how to do it. But yeah, to answer your question, how we hired them is the first step is always go to who you know, people you've worked with. I mean, that's just how it works, and then you already know them. And then we also went on Mandy.com and we were like searching for. That's where we found our sound person.
Yeah. Yeah, we put like a casting like ad, and you know, you have people reach out to you.
And we were, I was surprised at like the amount of responses and how like affordable, for lack of a better word, some of these people were. That was like good experience, and maybe we got lucky because the strike had just happened, so people were really just like hungry for work.
Yeah.
But yeah, we found a good crew with good experience. And we were able to do it under our budget.
But I also think it's great to find people that are at your level. Like, you don't have to, you know, reach out to like the big DPs or the big sound people. Like, there's so many people that are even like studying and are hungry to do stuff, you know, and like, and have the resources that maybe the school provides for them, or, you know, they like want to do things for the demo reels too. And so like going to like film schools and meeting people there, I think that's also a great idea.
That's a great suggestion. Another good idea too is that I've used in the past, is I think the sweet spot for a crew member is finding someone who's experienced in that field, but not quite in the thing they wish they were doing. So for example, another pilot that I shot, I had worked on this reality TV show, and a couple of the camera guys I became friends with, and I was telling them about this comedy I wanted to shoot. And these were professional TV camera people for reality TV, docuseries. But they secretly always wanted to be working on scripted. Right. So I was like, hey, do you want to shoot this comedy pilot? And they came and did it for free, even though their IMDb is like 100 miles long, because they just wanted to be in comedy. So I think that's also a great way. Find someone who, and they know what they're doing.
Yes.
The thing looked amazing. It looked great. And but they were just doing it because they always, it's like, it's for their reel too. Like they can add comedy stuff to their reel. So we're always trying to like help each other move, like make that jump from one side of the tracks to the other.
Yes.
To make another train reference. I'm really into trains today.
Also to add to that.
Yeah.
People are so tired of doing shitty projects.
Yes.
You know, so if also you have like an okay or good project in your hands, like even us as actors, you know, you get so many bad scripts that when you get a good script, you're like, yes, I want to do it. Like, I don't care if it doesn't pay, you know, because that's why we do what we do. And most of us are artists in this industry, right? So when we find something that we feel passionate about and that's better than the average that we're doing, it's like, yes, I want to be part of it. I mean, we get excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay, so that's how we found the people. And we had the smallest crew in history. We literally just had the DP and a sound recorder.
We shot for 3 days. It was a 12-page script that turned into a 17-minute movie. Should we play the trailer for it? Should we play the trailer for it?
Let's watch the trailer and we'll be back and talk about it.
Okay. Ooh. Wow, nice place.
Thanks.
So what do? You're a lawyer, doctor?
I'm a streamer on the internet.
Ooh. Do you think I'm gonna be famous?
Definitely. This is the biggest audience I've ever had. I'm loving you.
I'm not gonna get away with that.
Did you miss me?
we're back from the trailer, and it was all exciting.
Yeah, it was very Dune. We were going for the, the sandworms. Dun-dun.
We just watched Dune right before we made that trailer, so you're welcome. Anyway, so now you have a sort of a flavor of what the movie is, and as you can see, it's all shot in one location. And yeah, we shot 3 days, and for 2 to 3 days, it was me and you and a DP and a sound person.
Yes, but we also have to say that like you and I took on a lot of roles, and I was gonna say we're lucky. I don't think we're lucky. Like we've worked on it very hard to get to know how to do a lot of the things that we did on set. We directed, we starred in it. I was the makeup, costume, you edited. Like, we were able to like do all these things that I understand that maybe a lot of people are not able to do. But still, like we managed it, and it was a lot. It was kind of crazy. It was my first experience directing and acting in film. I had done that in theater, but not in film. Yeah. And I thought it was kind of overwhelming. One of the things that like I regret, and I hope in the next project that we do, is that we have more pre-production time. Because of the story we explained, it was literally just 1 week, and that just like
we cobbled that thing together so fast. I mean and I'm glad we did, because we proved it to ourselves that we could finish it in a smaller amount of time than we thought. Yeah. But yeah, we were co-directing it, and I remember sitting. I was tied up. I'm tied up for a lot of the movie, and trying to direct from a chair while you're tied up was a very interesting experience. Yeah,
like ball gag on, and we're about to like go action, and he's like, and I'm like, what? And I'm wearing these heels, so I have to like walk in these heels that are hurting, that I'm in for like the 10 hours that we're shooting, and lower the ball gag. Like, what do you want? It got so frustrating at some point.
Yeah. Ungag me so I could give my director's thoughts before we call action.
I know, I'm like, if someone walks into the set without knowing what we're doing, they're gonna be like, what the fuck is this movie?
It was so funny. That was definitely challenging. I have had some experience directing and acting simultaneously, and this podcast is mostly for a lot of actors, right? So I guess I'll skew this from the acting point of view, which is the challenge is always, for me especially, is shifting out of the director's hat and putting, just when you say action, just putting the actor's hat on and just trying to immerse yourself in the character. I do find myself sometimes like in the middle of a scene thinking of like, oh, this isn't working from a directing point of view. We need to change this, which, you can't avoid that. You're seeing the whole movie as you're in the movie, but also you have to be willing to just let that go and then do your take, and then put the director's hat back on and watch in the monitors, and then sort of like come up with your ideas.
That's the key. The key is, if you're going to direct an act, you need time. And that was the thing that was against us. Yeah. We were scheduled to shoot for 2 days and ended up adding a third one. And even then, we were rushing for time the whole time. So many takes we didn't get to watch. And so for me, that's what was the struggle as a director, because I was like, okay, like it felt good as an actor, but like I'm not able to see it from the outside. And even though you can feel it internally, like you still have to see it. Yeah. And yeah, that was my struggle.
No, it was with good learning experience. And the other stuff I've done before, I've been a character in the thing, but I'm not in every shot. And in this thing, both of us are basically in every shot. Yeah. So there was times where it was a close up on you, and but I'm giving you the eye line, and I'm giving you the line. So I'm still not standing by the monitor and watching. There was a few moments where each of us were able to stand by the monitor and give actual notes. And that was amazing. Like those takes, I think those are probably the better takes in the movie, because 100%. We're actually getting actual directing feedback. So my advice, I don't know, is there advice to give? It's just, I think the more we do it, the better we're going to get at it. Yeah. It's always great to have someone else there as an extra third eye to sort of just give you some feedback, especially if you're doing a lot of acting. Shout out to our friend Matt, who came and was in the movie, and also came and helped out and was a PA on the second day. And that was a lifesaver, because I don't think we would have finished without him. 100%.
Also, I think he's amazing. And when you watch the movie, he is the neighbor. And I think he's a great example of how, there's no small roles, only small actors. Like he improvised, and that ended up being like the thing that stayed. And when we edited, we kept that. And it was the funniest thing, that was not in the original script. And he just
nailed
did it.
Nailed it.
So funny. So we were talking about like if we had more pre-production, like what is the things that you would have done in pre-production if we had that time, that like if somebody has that time?
Well, let's lay out the things we did do and then maybe talk about things we didn't do. So general pre-production, you know, I wish I had my list in front of me, but you're scouting locations, you're breaking down the script. That's the first key thing you want to do is when you have your locked script, go through the script and break it down and write down all the locations, write down all the characters, write down all the props, write down all the wardrobe, like all the things that you're going to need to make this movie. Because if you don't, you're going to forget the weird little screwdriver thing that's in that scene that you all of a sudden need. You need a fuzzy pink screwdriver for some reason.
Especially if you don't have, you know, like the every department, if you're doing it all yourself, you need to write those things down.
Then what you want to do, which we didn't have time to do, is do an extensive shot list. We did it kind of we did like the bare bones version of it. We kind of like, okay, here's some ideas for this. And then the morning of, we would sit down and really write down a like detailed shot list. But having, you know, a week or 2 weeks before to really, and even sketch some of them out, storyboard something, it's invaluable.
Definitely. I think the third day we did something in the morning that I thought that was the cutest
it was very
thing.
funny.
And it was funny, but I think it helped, and it helped the DP. So we basically like drew the set on
bird's
on
eye
paper,
view.
bird's eye view, from the top, and then we grabbed like two little
meeples.
What is that?
Meeples, like from a board game. We had these two little meeples because we were doing a longer handheld shot for the opening of the film, and there's a lot of movement and the characters are crisscrossing and stuff, and so we were just trying to like plan out that shot ahead of time, but we were finding it hard to write this down, so we used our meeples.
So we recorded it, and we like basically were like, okay, the first shot it's here, and you know, David moves here, Denise moves here, and we just recorded and sent it to the DP. And I think that was amazing.
Yeah, he loved it.
He understood it better.
He laughed, and then he loved it. But you know, you do what you got to do, and that costs nothing. It costs us nothing I already had the meeples because I love board games. That's a whole other podcast. Tune in next week when we talk about board games, pandemic.
Give me Lannister.
Give me Lannister.
Other things that you would have done in pre-production?
What about you?
Honestly, like, I think I wish I had prepared better as an actress too, because I think I was so worried preparing from the director point of view and costumes and all the other things that we had to manage, like from a producer point of view too, that I don't think I pre-planned. You know, I did all the character work I wish I had done and all those things. Like now watching back a lot of takes, I'm like, oh, I could have done this. Like there were bolder choices that I could have made. Well, oh my God. And like, it just comes to mind. It's like, but if I had the time, I could have done it.
That's fair though. But that's the feeling of everyone acting in everything ever since the dawn of time. So like that's just an actor's problem.
No, but I did feel like, in another project in which I'm not producing and directing too, I do get the chance to prepare more.
You have more.
There's always regrets. There's always going to be like the moment you watch and you're like, I could have done this better. But I think this one, it was lack of time.
Well, you couldn't tell.
Oh, thank you.
At least I couldn't tell. I thought it was great. One thing I think that we did do well, which I had never done before, was we workshopped some of the scenes in our class.
Yes.
So we put up two of the scenes in class in our scene study class, and we got feedback from people in class, and our acting coach, she gave us feedback and even like story feedback, and that was super helpful because we actually went back and rewrote some of the script from doing that, and we took it in a different direction, which we'll talk about this in a bit. We took even further direction when we went to the edit room and we had to chop out a bunch of monologues, but that's for after the break.
The moment I have my breakdown.
And by after the break, I mean I'm gonna leave because Denise gets very mad at me
when I talk
about the monologue that got cut from the movie.
Oh God. No, you're right. I think if you have someone that you trust and you can like, you know, let them read the script, workshop the actual like a scene or something, I think it's very valuable, especially when you're directing and acting in it, because there's things that you're gonna see that they're gonna see that you don't see.
Yeah.
That was very valuable. Thank you, Claire Chabuk.
Thank you, Claire.
All the notes. Claire's amazing.
And we also gave them some of our writer friends to give feedback. And honestly, that's the best time to fix the movie is in the writing, because you can do it. It's free. You can change a whole scene. You can change a location. Costs you zero. Trying to do that on the day or especially in post, it becomes a nightmare. So yeah, just don't be afraid to give people the script, get their honest feedback, take the notes, everything with a grain of salt, if there's a note that's nagging you in the back of your mind and then someone else says it, that's probably something you should address. If someone says something and you're like, that's bonkers crazy, and you think about it and you're like, no, I don't like that, then don't do the note. You don't have to do every note. But if you see consistent pattern, everyone's like, I'm so confused by the ending.
Yes.
Maybe you have to look at the ending.
100%.
So yeah, give it around, like send your script around, get feedback from it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. So we finished pre-production.
Pre-production.
We get to the actual set.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked a lot about it already.
Yeah, well, I think we can talk about, like, I think there were moments that, things went wrong and we could, have...
Nothing went wrong. It was perfect from beginning to end.
It was perfect.
Not a single thing went wrong. Actually, to be honest, though,
it was pretty
It did
smooth.
go quite smooth. Considering
the
small crew and the small amount of time, we didn't miss anything. Like we didn't miss a shot.
We did not have like giant mistakes that were like non-fixable.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I would say is when then in post-production we realized that we had to cut such a big thing. I think we wasted a lot of time shooting so many things that we shouldn't have thought of shooting. But
But that's just it
happens.
That's the process.
I understand. I know.
The editing is. They always say the editing is the third time you make the movie. First time is when you write it. Second time is when you shoot it. Third time is when you edit it.
Totally.
So we remade the movie in the edit.
We just shot a 25-minute movie that ended up being 17 minutes, and that's I think what we were rushing for. Another thing that is in the movie and that we were able to do, which was so much fun, was the fight, the stage combat.
Super fun.
And luckily enough, we had done stage combat. Well, I've done stage combat for many years. I am certified in 8 different weapons, which is something that I did in acting school back in college. And you got to do stage combat this past summer, which was so much fun.
Fun.
And so we were able to choreograph that and do it together. And
honestly, thank God, because we ran out of time and we had to shoot that fight scene in like, I think we shot it in 30 minutes.
I know.
That should have been a half a day, but we shot it in 30 minutes and we just did like 3 takes, and it is what it is.
It's super funny because right before we shot Please Like Me, I was doing a series, in which it was also very rushed, and every scene I got 1 or 2 takes, no kidding. And if you're an actor and you've done film, you know what that means. It's like your biggest nightmare, and sometimes like I didn't know that was my only take, and I do 1 take and they'd be like, okay, moving on, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm just getting into it, And so when we were talking about this, you were joking and telling me, don't worry, you're gonna have all the takes that you want. Come the day up. We don't have time. We gotta move on.
Well, okay, to be fair though, we did take time for the things that mattered. The fight did matter, but that's the one thing we ran out of time. But we knew it was going to be quick and dirty anyway. Yeah. So, I would have loved to have shot it for a couple more angles and maybe got the timing just a little bit better. But I think it worked. And yeah, I think that's the thing with shooting. My advice is, I'm an editor as well, so when I'm on set, I'm really seeing the edit in my head as we're making it. So I'm always aware of like what shots we need and what we don't, because I'm already kind of piecing the movie together in my head as we're shooting it.
Yes.
That's just a bonus skill that I happen to have, which I think is helpful. But even if you don't have that, like make sure you don't have to cover everything, because maybe you want to do this one thing in a wide shot for the entire thing. Sure, just shoot the wide shot if you know you're going to do that.
But make sure have more coverage.
Better have more coverage than not.
Yeah.
But also make sure, I guess this is my one pet peeve as an editor and as a director, is people not shooting the right eye lines. Like if we're doing a scene like this, blah, 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 and then a third character comes in and then I turn and I talk to you, move the camera over there, over his shoulder, so that you can see me looking at them, talking to them. So many times you see, especially in indie filmmaking, like student filmmaking or whatever, the camera just stays on this angle and like we're just seeing the side of my face, talk to that person. Sure, maybe do that for 1 or 2 shots, but like get the eye lines. Like think about the audience. Like you want to see into people's eyes. It's such an easy
mistake to make though, especially if you've never heard like the concept of the eye lines and all that.
Yeah, for sure.
Like you don't even know, and then you get to the editing room, it's like something is weird, but I don't know what it is. Like a lot of times, if you don't understand that concept, it's like, it looks weird, but I don't know why. And eye lines.
Yeah, the eye lines, and then the axis. Like this is something that still I have to think about every time on set. Is like, are we crossing the axis? For those that don't know, there's a line that you kind of, an imaginary line you draw in the scene, and you always want to shoot on one side. Not all, always is, you know, people will break this rule all the time, but generally you want to shoot on one side of that line. That way, if one camera's here shooting on Denise, that the line would be here, and then kind of like how this setup we have here, and then that camera here is shooting me. But if you put that camera that's there over on her shoulder here, then it would look like Denise is looking the same direction that I'm like. You want Denise to be looking left to right. You want me looking right to left. So that we're looking at each other.
Totally.
It's so easy on set to get confused by that, and you put the camera in the wrong spot, and then when you go to edit it, all of a sudden you're like, that person looks like he's not even looking at the other person that they're talking to. So if you're gonna shoot something, research the axis and really be aware. You can cross it. You can definitely cross it, but be aware that you're crossing it. That's my advice.
Why you're like you're doing it purposefully.
Purposely. One easy trick if you're gonna cross the axis is cross it in camera. Meaning if you take that camera over that's over here and you move it behind my head and put it there, and that's all part of one shot, then the audience is aware that the camera has repositioned.
They do it in Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah,
I love that shot. That was such a cool shot.
Sometimes you want to do that. Sometimes you do that to mark a moment. It's like an impactful moment. If the character's POV is changing the scene, you want to maybe change the where this camera is, and now all of a sudden we're like, oh, this character is now thinking the opposite thoughts that they were thinking before. So like that's a way to, but do it in camera, because then in the edit you can have the camera go behind the person's head, and then the audience is like, okay, geographically I know what's going on. It's not confusing. But whatever, you know, people cross it all the time though. That being said, but it's very frustrating as an editor if you do that without knowing you're doing it, because then it just becomes a shit show. Anyway, that's my rant.
I love it. No, and what was amazing of like co-directing with you is that I think we both have different strengths that complement each other. Like you being an editor too, you know, all these like technical things that, you know, I'm not that aware of. Like I don't understand editing and all that. I think I'm more like of a visual person, and like, you know, I have a very aesthetic idea, you know, of like the way things look like, you know, and like the design.
Yeah,
and
you were
all
so
that.
good with the production design and the lighting and the color of the lighting. Obviously the DP does like a lot of the lighting, but you had the vision.
Departments, but I had the vision, or some shots like the kissing shot, you know, I was like I really want this specific thing.
Yeah.
Well, you're like so good at all these technical things that like I wasn't even thinking about while we were on set, and so I thought it was great to.
It's like a team, almost like a team.
Like a team.
Working together.
I know.
No, it was great. I really liked working with you. It was a great experience. And yeah, we had complementary strengths and weaknesses.
We did have moments of, you know.
A couple moments where we were like maybe got a little annoyed with each other, but I think pretty good overall.
I think it's hard directing with someone, because the director is a leader, right? And when you have a very strong vision and the other person doesn't see that vision, then you're like, wait.
Yeah, what am I not seeing here?
What are you doing, right? Yeah. But we're there and we don't have time, and we can't have these discussions, you know. That's why like having them ahead of time is more important. Mm-hmm. But you know, we made it work.
We did. I think I'm very happy, and no permanent scars.
No permanent scars.
What's frustrated me in movies that I've been in the past that I was not directing, that I'm acting in, is, and I don't know if it's just bad luck for me, or I'm super ugly, but like I often don't get enough close-ups in the stuff. Like I always feel like it.
David has this thing where in every movie he's been in, and I've been reading.
No one wants to shoot my face.
They shoot either his profile or his back.
I'll give you an example. I did this one movie, and this was a very green director. I'm not going to say who it was. The scene was me coming home, and my mom has just died, and I'm cleaning out the basement or something, and I'm finding some of her stuff. And so in the scene, I find a photo of her and me together, and it's the first time I've seen this in a long time, and it's emotional. Anyway, so I'm doing my actress thing, and I'm like looking at the photo. The tears are coming. I'm like, you know, not too many tears, just enough tears. And it was the one tear, perfectly crafted tear down my cheek. Anyway, I'm doing the thing. I'm doing the work, emoting. He's behind me, shooting the back of my head and shooting the photo over my shoulder. That was like take one. Then he's like, cut, got it, let's move on. And then I was like, wait, don't you want to shoot me looking at the photo? And he was like, no, I got it, everything from. I'm like, you got all that from the back of my head? First of all, I didn't need to do anything. I could have just kind of just sat there and just looked at this photo.
Yeah.
And so that was an example. But I don't know. Sometimes people just forget to shoot close-ups, and it's like that's the eyes tell the story.
Our movie has a lot of close-ups because I think we're both scarred. that I
Maybe,
feel like we
yeah.
did so many.
But you were so worried that you weren't gonna get. It's ironic because you were very scared. And the day one, because we're shooting.
Day one, we only got David's. Imagine this: we get on set, and it's what 10-hour day, 10 hour, right? We did 10 hours.
Yeah.
And all we did was shoot David's close-ups. And I'm like, I'm not going to be in this movie.
But the only reason for that is because I'm stuck in a chair. And so on day one, for time, for sake of efficiency, we shot all the angles shooting this direction. So that way we didn't have to reset the lights. So all the scenes that were shooting this direction, we shot all those in a row.
And it just happened to be David's close-up.
It just happened to be a close-up.
Yeah.
Because that was also the wide shot was that direction too. And so then but then Denise, am I ever gonna get a close up? Am I gonna close up? I'm like, don't worry, we'll shoot you. And then
I was being diva instead of director.
The second day we turned it around and you got your close ups and there's tons of every close up. It's just a pet peeve of mine. I don't even know if this is just more a me thing. Like that's just a thing that's happened to me.
No, I think it's part of coverage. Like just get all the fucking coverage, because like you just never know what you're gonna need.
Don't get so. I mean, maybe that's the advice that comes out of all this is if you're tight on time, don't get so in love with your master shots that you waste half your day on them. Because the master being the wide shot that you usually shoot first to establish the scene, and sometimes you want to cut to that if there's a moment of, you want to show that the characters are far apart or the moment is there's like a distance between the characters. Maybe you want to cut to the wide in the edit, but. Generally, you're not going to cut to that very often, so don't waste all your time on that shot, and then so that you run out of time and you don't even get to do the close-up. Yeah. Shoot the master once or twice, get the geography, and then go in for the mediums, and then but make sure you get those close-ups, and then give yourself the time to shoot the close-up as many times as you need, because that's where you're going to make. I think you're going to make or break your movie. Okay,
so let's talk about post-production and the things that happened, because originally the movie, as we said, was about. My story, the Dimitri story, in which the food was not delivered, and so this girl basically takes it to the extreme that I personally never took it, which is she gets revenge. She gets revenge. She gets the revenge from her brace lamb never getting there, and it's actually very fun. It's more like a psycho take on it. And I love that there was like this whole monologue in which she then orders a brace lamb when he is tied up and needs it in front of him, and finally reveals why he's been tied up, because this whole time this guy's like, why the fuck am I here? Like, this girl is crazy. Am I gonna die? And suddenly it all clicks and he's like, okay, now I know why I'm here. After like all this torture and stuff. And so that was great. And then
the monologue was great, but the monologue you did was amazing. By the way,
the monologue was great. I know it's a monologue that now it's lost and nobody's ever gonna see, but it's okay. We'll continue to talk about it. Then as we were writing it, you decided to add another monologue after this monologue that was talking about social media and how fucking hard it is, and how streamers and influencers, like, you end up doing everything for the chat and for the followers, and in the end it's like, is it me or is it them, and where's like the moral line? Where's the moral line there, right? And that was also a great monologue. And then the movie ends. We're not going to tell you how it ends. The point is that then when we edited all those things together and we ended up with a 25-minute movie, there was something off. There was something off. There was a lot of monologues together, and there were a lot of things going on, and so we showed it to a couple of friends, and the verdict was, let's change the movie completely. Now the movie's not about a girl
who gets
revenge. It's just about a streamer who is just doing this for the numbers, which meant that we cut almost 10 minutes out of the movie and basically the main monologue.
Well, one thing to add too is that the script initially was 12 pages long, and what we sort of failed to realize at the time was how much action is in the script.
Yes.
Like little things like he struggles with the ropes trying to free himself. That's one line on the page, but that ended up being 30 seconds of the movie because it's more compelling intention to watch him struggle and da-da-da. And we didn't know how long we were going to keep it in the edit, but a lot of these things are building the tension, and so a lot of these action lines that were one line in the script ended up being like a minute long or 20 seconds or whatever. And so that compounded, and then we ended up with this like long ass movie.
A mistake that now we're not gonna.
And we were like, "How? This movie's too long." That was also the consensus. This movie is too long. We did our first cut of the movie, and
because originally it had to be 10 minutes. Like we were like, it's gonna be 10 to 12 minutes.
I think our first cut was 29 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
No, yeah.
That was draft 1 was 29 minutes. Then everyone was in agreement. This is way too long. Yeah. We were in agreement. We showed everyone. Everyone said the same thing. So like, how can we cut stuff? So we cut it down to like 25. I don't remember when we cut the monologue, at what point in the process.
That's it. We were at 25 and we showed it to a couple of people, and everybody was like, the problem with it is that there's like two plots, basically. Yeah. Like we have the plot of the girl getting the revenge, and we have the plot of the influencer doing these 4 numbers that she feels forced to, and they kind of don't go together. Part of it was that the 2 monologues were written so close that it seemed like monologue after monologue. Yeah. And so, but it made sense. Like we have to basically change what the movie's about. It was,
and because it was 2 conflicting stories happening, not conflicting, but 2 different stories happening simultaneously. Yeah. And I think for a short, you don't want to have that. You can have like an A and B story that are happening, but for 2 parallel stories with the same character happening simultaneously, it's just like too much for a short. And it didn't.
True. I think that's a very big thing for people, like a very big tip. If you're writing a short, keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Keep it just one idea. Keep it simple.
And I think also part of the workshopping we did, the first workshop we did was just the Braised Lamb revenge story. And then out of that workshop came this idea about like, should this be more about her? She's doing this for the numbers, and she's doing this for fame and recognition. And so then we added that in, but we failed to take out the other part. So that was the kind of the learning lesson in this, is that, and also because the original conceit was that this was going to be, the whole idea was to do this Braised Lamb thing. So especially for me, like as a writer, I felt the whole process, I wanted to keep this Braised Lamb story in, because that was the initial idea.
Because that was what the movie was called, Braised Lamb.
The movie was called Braised Lamb. It was all this kind of stuff. And I also just wanted to honor this idea we come up with. Yeah. But that's the lesson, the key lesson in this is, don't like there's a million cliched expressions for this, like kill your babies or whatever it is.
It's easy when it's not your mom.
You have to be willing to make the hard.
So bad. Like David just comes one day and she just like sits in front of me and he's like all serious, like someone has killed a puppy or something. He's like, we need to talk. And I'm like, okay. He's like, I think you know what I'm gonna say, but I think we need to cut your monologue. And it was so dramatic. And I was like,
I don't know. I didn't think I was being that dramatic.
It was that dramatic. It felt that dramatic for me. In my head, it felt like you were telling me I was cut off of the movie and it was over.
I will say, eventually, you really came to terms with it and accepted it. And
No. That's a thing. Like, that's also a hard part that I found with directing and acting. Like, as an actor, I was pissed that my monologue was being cut off. But as a director, I understood it, you know, and the director just has to prevail, and that's it, you know.
That's the story you're thinking of?
That's the story.
No, you did. It was, I think we made the movie better for it. I think it was a good decision, and it's a great monologue, and you can show your kids one day.
Can I?
Yeah.
God. It's not even color correct.
It's not color. You can show them the uncolor corrected. They'll be like, Mom, why does it look so bad?
Why does it sound bad and look bad? Well.
That's a good segue if we want to talk about. Is that enough about post?
No. Well, let's talk about. Yeah, another thing that we did in post. I mean, the first thing that we did was edit, and we did so many fucking cuts, you know, and we showed it to people, and we got the notes from them, and until we felt good about it.
Yeah.
There were notes, like we were saying with the writing, that we did not agree with, you know, and sometimes you're gonna show it to people, and a lot of people were like, it's still too long, or like, oh, like we get it once it started, like we get what's going on, and it's like, okay, but like, you know, for my opinion on that is like, filmmaking is not about what is happening, but how is happening, right? Like the story is simple, but it's about how we get to the story. So we did not agree with that, and we didn't cut it farther. And then when we got to a cut that we were happy with, then we sent it to color and sound, and we locked it. Yeah. We put another Mandy ad for those.
We love Mandy.com.
Mandy.com.
For any of you that are thinking of making a short and have never made one, just know going into it that the edit is going to be by far the longest step in the process. Mm-hmm. I would say that it's the same amount of time as every other step in the movie combined. So the time it takes to write, do pre-production, and film, however long that is, that's probably the same amount of time it's going to take you to edit. It took us 2 months to do writing and pre-production, and then about 2 months to do the entire edit, including color and sound, which I guess we can talk about next.
Yeah. I mean, I think those are very important things, and I think those are like two of the steps that most like indie or like new filmmakers don't do because they think it might not be as important. That was one of the big things. Now, not to shit on anyone, but like every time that I've gone to like film festivals or things, like the thing that like breaks the movie's sound.
Sound is,
oh my god, like you'll have a perfectly visual like movie, it looks beautiful, the acting is great, and then the sound is so bad. And I always thought when I make my movie, the sound has to be good.
And it does sound good. That's people listening, that's the number one takeaway. Make sure your movie sounds good.
Yes.
And it's okay if it doesn't look as good as it sounds. If it sounds good, it's gonna be fine. Because visuals can be subjective. If it's out of focus a little bit, or if it's grainy, sure, that's not great, but like you can get away.
You're saying that because our movie sometimes
there's
out of
focus. We didn't have a focus puller on our movie. It's
great.
Brad, shout out to Brad.
He did amazing.
He was a one man crew, pulling focus and setting up lights and all that shit, and he did amazing. And so sometimes it goes out of focus, but that's bearable. That's tolerable. You're sitting in a movie theater and it's like crackly, like the gain is popping,
it's like
and
not
like
mixed,
it sound doesn't sound good,
like
or
all different,
or you're
like
far away. Sometimes I've seen movies where I don't think you mic'd anybody. I think you're just using the camera mic, which is just
or like
horrible.
The boom mic.
It's like the bane of my existence.
So that was like, we were sure we were gonna do that. Same with the collar. Like we definitely could not have done collar too, and it just left it like that. But it was important to us that like final step was there. I'm just like super happy that we did that. I think it sounds and looks really good.
And then you have to, as an indie filmmaker, music is always a step that's really challenging. You have to try and find music that you have the rights to use, which means you either go to like a sound library and you license it, or you find a composer that you can afford to pay, or you have a friend who is in a band and they can give you music.
Yeah.
There's no one way to do it, and every time it's different.
Yeah.
But you just gotta, when you're making your rough cut, use whatever music you want, because you're just trying to find the tempo of the music is going to inform the editorial pace, like the pacing of the cuts. So that you need, and also just the tone.
Music changes a movie so much. Everything. It was wild. Like we tried this movie with like electronic music. We tried it with jazz. We tried it
with this like weird anime, like Japanese music going on at some point.
And it was a completely different movie every time. You know, I was like, what is happening? It's so much fun to see. But like, I think that's something that I hadn't realized how much it changed it, and like, I remember a lot of times you were like, we're going to put music here. I'm like, you want to put music here? Like, I imagine it's silence, or like sound effects, like that. There's a shot in which David's foot on a close-up, it's an insert of the foot just like landing on the floor. And then David wanted to put this like Dune sound of like boom,
just out of nowhere, because at that point in the movie, there's nothing going on in the movie. I thought we tried it, it didn't work.
And it didn't work.
But that's what you guys do, try shit.
But sound effects in other places that we've put them, like they worked, and it added so much, especially the fight, the whole action sequence. Once we added the music and the sound, it made it.
Yeah, even like to the point where we didn't really have time to shoot. Well, I don't want to give away the movie. It doesn't matter if we give away the movie.
No, I don't want to say the end.
Your character falls on the ground at one point, and we didn't have time to shoot the falling down and hitting the ground. Yes. So in post, we just kind of put in sound effects of a body hitting the ground, and then like whatever she was carrying, like the sound of that like bouncing on the floor. And it's amazing. Like you don't even need that shot, because you hear it and you're like, oh, I know exactly what's going on because I can hear it.
Yeah.
But without those sound effects, you would be very confused as to like what just happened. And so you can get away with, sometimes that's something you can get away with. Sound design is super important. It's also very fun. 100%. It's really fun to just add sound design and add the sound effects. It really brings the movie to life.
It also can transform like a scene from a comedy to like a sexy, like the first scene in the movie. If we put like the sexy jazz, it was like a sexy scene. But if we put like funny music, it would have been even funnier than it is. But you can also put the horror music, and then it makes it like, what the fuck is happening here? It's so much fun.
Like you can have two characters just being like, hi, how's it going? Nice to meet you. You put horror music underneath that. all of a sudden you're like, somebody's about to die. This is crazy, suspenseful. What is going on? And it's just two people being normal, neutral. So that's always really fun. There's actually a, I'll just give a little bit of let's give a little editing knowledge here. There's this old school editing, like it's like a famous test that this German guy did once, where he was studying like the effects of editing, and he basically took a photo of or an image of this man just with like a neutral expression, and just like kind of just sitting there staring with like as neutral an expression. And then he made several edits of that. And so he did one reel where it was this man, and he intercut that with shots of like kids playing or something, and then shots of like someone dying, and then shots of whatever. And what he found was it was the same shot, the same expression. People watching those movies would be like, oh, he looks so like he's in love with his kids, or he looks like he's so sad about the person dying.
Like the acting changes.
It looks like he's afraid. The exact same shot. And that's the music is also part of that. Music like it ties into your subconscious, and you project how you're feeling into the actor's eyes sometimes.
Totally.
And you sort of like feel how you're feeling in their eyes. Totally. And music is like a big part of that. It's like the director saying like, here's kind of what we want you to feel right now. So like feel this way, and then you're going to project that into the actor. And
subconsciously, it's like the audience so many times doesn't even notice that there's a score or a sound effect, just like, but subconsciously it makes you feel something.
Unless you're watching Dune, where you notice that every 2 seconds is like a duh! Every time there's sand, duh! The movie should be called Dune. Anyway.
You can tell we did not love Dune.
But it helped with the trailer.
Yeah, it helped with the trailer. No, but like the fact that we were able to change the plot of our movie completely in post-production tells you how important post-production is. And this is something that I tell my students in my coaching program all the time, how that, to me, that's the biggest difference between theater and film acting. Like in film acting, as an actor, you're not completely in control. Like your job is to go on set, you do your best job, and you have your choices made, but then you gotta let go. Because in post-production, anything can happen. Like I've been in movies where like I thought my performance was great, and then the way it was edited and the sound, and it was shitty in the end, and it's like, fuck, but it's not my fault really. Or the opposite. Like you have actors who are not that great, but like you can make great post-production design and like editing, and you make it great.
I've worked on some TV shows that were, big budget shows, and sometimes you don't get the greatest performances from a certain actor, and I've literally used reaction shots from one person's reaction for a certain thing and use it in a different thing. So like earlier in the scene, they're reacting to like, I don't know, whatever, birthday cake comes up. Yeah. And then, but later in the scene, someone gives them bad news, and for whatever reason, that reaction to the birthday cake works better. I just use that, and then no one knows. And when you're watching the take, you're like, "Oh wow, that's a really interesting reaction to that news." It's like, no, it wasn't. It was just the editor struggling and just trying to put anything together that would resemble like good acting.
Totally. But as a theater actor, that's hard to come across, because I started in theater and I did that my whole life. That was hard for me to let go of that control, because when you're on stage as an actor, like that's it. It's you. Yeah. If you mess up, it's you. Like the product is right there. You're putting it out there, and the audience is receiving it right there. But in film, I think that's a very big.
But I think too with theater, there's like a psychic connection you have with the audience, and so it's like they're feeling you, and you're feeling them feeling you, and so like in that moment, I think things come together, and I think I always think it dials in more.
100%.
Because it's that same projection. They're projecting onto you. You're feeling that projection. You project back to them. But on film, it's not that, because like when the audience is going to watch it a year later, and the psyche of the zeitgeist has changed, or the music on that scene is different now, so your performance is maybe not matching.
Know the
and it's like it's kind of magic the way it all comes together in the end. And I always say that like every step of the process of filmmaking, you gotta trust. You have to trust. You have to trust. That's not where I was going with this, but yes, you have to trust. I was gonna say that my take on it always is that every step you can elevate it one level. So if you have an average script, in the filming of it, you can make it good. Yep. You can't make it great, but and then in a good film script, you can make great with the editing. Yes. But you can't take an average filmed thing and make it great in the book. Like there's only a certain amount of room. There's only a certain amount you can make something better with every step. So that's why every step has to be as best it can be. Yep. You can't just take a shitty script and a shitty production and then be like, we're going to make a great movie out of this footage. This is,
Totally.
it's impossible.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know. That's how I approach filmmaking is that you can always make it better, but you can't, like, it has to be good
miracles.
to start. It has to be, you can't do miracles. Yeah.
that's
There's no miracles before me.
Totally.
And my other thing I say about editing is that editing is like bass playing. If it's done well, you don't notice it.
Yes.
But if it's bad, if you hit the wrong note on a bass, the whole stadium hears it. And same thing with editing. A bad edit pulls you right out of the movie. All of a sudden you're just like, well, I feel the editing. I can feel what's going on here. And so, but that just takes practice. You just got to keep doing it.
Yeah. How did you get so good at editing?
At editing, I just kind of just did a million hours of it and just keep doing it and just fake it till you make it.
You've worked on a lot of amazing projects too. Like,
I learned from a lot of people. One thing I did when I first started editing is I would go to every editor, like on TV shows I was working on, I would go to every editor and just pick their brain. Be like, how do you do this music transition? Like, how do you go from, like, if I have a scene where these characters are doing a thing and they're going to that, like, how do I, like, physically do that music transition? And I'm like, show me on your timeline. I'd make them, like, pull up the thing, like, oh, this is how I fade it out and this is where I would fade it in, and like, I just kept, like, asking, like, detailed questions like that, and until, you know, I think I was the only one on that TV show that asked every editor. So by the end of it, I knew how every editor was doing all their tricks.
That's
and
the
so
key
I had
to
everyone's,
anything.
I had, like,
Curiosity.
everyone's tricks. Yeah, that's it for everything.
That's it for acting, for everything. I
Yeah.
mean, that's why I'm asking, because I think you're like that with everything. That's why I think you're a great actor too, and director and everything. But yeah, I mean, as an editor, you've done that, you know, and that's how you learn. Like, you didn't go to editing school.
No, I didn't.
You didn't go to.
I don't think there is an editing school.
I know.
I went to Princeton. I went to Princeton for editing.
I know, but so many people always ask, well, like, I want to be a director, I want to be an actor. Do I need to go to college? You know, like, or all these things, like, in filmmakers. Like, you really don't. Like, you
honestly, you
learn.
don't. And we can save film school for another another day. But my 2 cents on it is that, yes, it's helpful. But from what I've seen, most student filmmakers come out of film school with an amazing ability to shoot beautiful images, but no ability to craft a story or edit in the edit room or any of the other things that are required.
Or direct actors.
Or direct actors, any of that kind of stuff. It's always so frustrating to me. It's like, yeah, great. You can shoot it's basically like cinematography school is what film school is, in my opinion. Yeah. So I think if you want to be a good cinematographer, director, go to film school.
But you also don't have to go to film school. Like, I know great cinematographers who have learned assisting other cinematographers and, like, you know, what you said, picking their brains and putting in
go on set, learn on set, read books, watch movies, just watch. What I do sometimes is I'll watch a movie and I'll break apart a scene, like I'll watch Pulp Fiction or something, and then I'll watch the scene, and I'll pick a couple scenes, and every time the camera shifts to a different angle, I take a photo of my TV, and so by the end of the scene, I have like the 6 or 7 photos, and it's almost like a storyboard of the scene. You can see all the shots that the director did. Do that for an entire movie or for your favorite director. See the pattern. See how the framing works. See how the wide shot was done. And you end up with, like, you know, for a whole movie, it's actually not that many shots for an entire movie, because in one scene, maybe there's like 4 or 5 different setups. And there's, like, I don't know, however many scenes in a movie. It's like actually not that many shots at the end of the day in a movie. And so that's free film school. That's just so cool. Do that. You can just, like, have your phone, and when you're on set and you're like, oh, I want to do a really cool wide here. Like, oh, I remember that wide in whatever movie, and then you pull it up on your phone and you're like, oh, that's cool how they shot it like that kind of angle is kind of interesting. Steal from everybody, steal from the best, and
that's how everybody does it. You learn things from other people
because it ultimately becomes your own thing. If you steal somebody else's thing and you do it through your POV,
nobody is going to do it your way.
It's going to be your thing. It's going to be your thing.
Well, I think the last thing we have to talk about is what happens now with the movie. Please Like Me. Like, we made this movie, we put all this effort into it, all these months. Why did we make it? What's the point of it?
So at the time of this recording right now, we've finished the movie and we've submitted it. We're starting to submit it to a bunch of festivals, and we're now in the waiting period where we wait to see if any of them will accept it. And so that's the frustrating part, is just kind of.
That's the exciting part. So we were saying at the beginning of the episode, that's the moment which we are in control. You know, like, how many times have you auditioned for this movie and, like, gone to shoot it, and then you don't know what's happening in post-production, and then they never submit it to a festival, submit it to a couple, and you never hear from it again, you know, like, this is our project, and sure, waiting is annoying, you know, but
you're
so
right.
exciting.
The exciting part is knowing that most likely it's going to get into some festival somewhere, but it's like, which one are we going to be? And we're going to try and go to the festivals we get into if we can.
Because that's the whole point of making this movie, right? It's putting yourself out there and going to the festival. Like, you get to network and meet all the people. And what we're saying at the beginning, like the people who are doing what you're doing and love doing what you're doing.
100%. Yeah. And so, but the frustrating part is just like, it's just out in the world. And I guess I love having, like I said, I love driving the bus or the train or the boat or whatever the fucking thing we're on. And now's the part where now you have to surrender to the universe and just be like, okay, does the universe want to send me to Portland or does it want to send me to Denmark? I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, yeah.
Hopefully New York.
To New York,
or
LA,
a better
Spain.
better film town.
Yeah.
But hey, no, a shout out to Oregon. I love you.
Portland. I would love to go there too. Yeah. It's super
no shade to Oregon.
Yeah. But the submitting process has been fairly easy, I would say. We went, there's so many festivals, first of all. Like, we can't even say how many festivals.
I think there's actually 4 billion festivals.
That is fucking wild. Like, and there's like in-person festivals and online only festivals, and like, it's crazy. But what we did, we made a list. We have a list of 50, 60?
60, yeah.
60 festivals that we were like, for whatever personal reasons, we were like, we'd love to be in these festivals. Some of them are in Spain, so obvious reasons I wanted to be in those. Like, I grew up hearing about them. Also, I'm going to put subtitles in Spanish to the movie to submit to those. Some of them are in Canada, obviously LA and New York, like these places.
And some of them are just like, there's the renowned ones. Obviously, there's the Sundance and the Tribecas of the world and the South by Southwest. Those are the ones,
like also all over the world, that are also good. Maybe you're not as famous as these we just named, but
you can find, there's so many lists. Actually, there's a really good list I like. Maybe you can link it below. The LA Shorts International Festival has a link on their website that links to, like, I don't know, it's like 80 or something. Good festivals for short films specifically.
I like the show notes.
I will say about the festivals, this is something to keep in mind, is the expense of submitting to festivals. If you can,
it's part of the budget.
Put that in the budget.
100%.
And honestly, make that a third of your budget.
Yes.
Or even half the
budget.
But
like, prioritize it, because I feel like the big mistake a lot of filmmakers do is they put all their money in the making of the film and they don't have enough for the festival. It's like,
what's the point?
Like, you make this movie to submit it to festivals. Like, that's the marketing of your movie. Like, if you're gonna make this movie to just keep it in your house, like, what's the point?
No, totally.
So
it could, in some cases, if your movie is really cheap and you get everyone to do favors and your whole budget might be film festivals.
Yeah.
Like, you probably want to spend $1,000 at least on film festivals, and that's every crazy to say that out loud.
I know it sounds like a lot, but every festival submitting is between like $50 to $100. Some of them are like $20, $30.
30 to 50 if you can get in early. That's another advice, is do the early submissions. I have this whole spreadsheet where I've charted everything and like
all the data,
all the dates and all the freaking data. But yeah, put that in the budget, and I was gonna say something else. Like, it's so important to spend that money because these festivals get thousands and thousands of submissions. The odds you're not gonna get into every festival.
Yeah, it's a numbers game. It's like self-submitting.
It's a numbers game.
A little bit
If you let's say you get into 5, I think 10% is a generous estimate, unless your movie is the next Citizen Kane.
Right. And even then.
Yeah, even then, Citizen Kane today will probably not do so well. Let's say you get into 10% of festivals, which is a generous estimate. If you submit to 50, that means you're only getting into 5.
Yeah.
And so how many festivals do you want to get into? And that's a generous estimate. So if you want to guarantee you get into some and like have a benefit to this, then you have to, there's no hack to festival submissions as far as I know. If someone knows, let us know in the comments. If your grandfather runs to Toronto Film Festival, then great. Maybe he can get you
there
in.
You go.
But,
other than that, I mean, just putting the best product that you can out there and, doing a good submission process. We made a website, part of the, submitting to festivals. We did the trailer, we did the website. We have not done a social media because we both have personal social medias and decided that we're going to submit it there. But, we did a synopsis and like our bios and all that stuff. Like, we made sure that everything that was in our hands was like the best possible.
I feel like for me, a short film, the lifespan of a short film is very much limited to festivals, and maybe you can get it on, maybe a streamer picks it up, or maybe like an airline, like Air Canada is going to maybe we can sell it to Air Canada. That's possible. maybe not our, maybe not this film. It's not that it's not very family friendly. But anyway, the point being that I don't think for me, it's not necessary to make a whole social media campaign or anything. Because like, what are you really promoting? Like if it's in theaters and people could go see it, then yeah, you want to build that buzz for your feature film that's going to be filming in some or screening in some like, you know,
totally. I think you're better off
theaters.
like advertising it in a place that already has followers and some people there. So,
yeah.
Which is your personal.
But yeah, just the moral is get out there, make stuff. You never know who's going to watch it. And this way you're not sitting at home just waiting for some casting director who you never even met to watch your 10-second self-tape. Are they even going to watch your 20-second self-tape where you're standing in your living room emoting
with no pants on?
With no pants on. And you know, just get your stuff out there, and you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, take matters into your own hands. Like, start small. You don't even use your iPhone. Honestly, like, just start somewhere. You know, just do something. This was a great talk.
This was a blast.
Thank you so much for coming to the Actors Wow. I think everybody's gonna love all your advice, tips, metaphors, wisdom. All your train
metaphors. That's where we're at today's podcast.
I love it. I'm sure you can be back another time.
I'd love to come back.
Yeah.
This is my apartment, so I will be coming back.
Thank you for inviting me to your apartment. Do you want to tell people where they can find you and all your stuff?
Sure. So the production company that we made this film with is Rockfield Entertainment, and there's a YouTube channel at Rockfield TV. You can see one of the pilots that I made called Room and Board, which is a comedy pilot.
So
and you can follow me on Instagram at the David Guthrie, or if you're into board games, I also go by Gamey Lannister. You can check that out. And or just follow me in real life. Just follow me down the street. And
baby reindeer style.
Just baby reindeer.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll see you guys next week, and thank you for tuning in. Bye.